A formal welcome to everybody. Fantastic morning again here in Gauteng. I believe it's great in Langebaan as well. So Wouter connecting with us from Langebaan this morning. So nice to have someone from the West Coast. And welcome to everybody. Grant is our storyteller this morning. So maybe just a quick handover to Lee for a short introduction, then we'll put Grant on the podium and take it away.
Well, morning, everyone. It's great to see you all. And Wouter, and for those of you who were part of the session yesterday, part of the pattern of what is evolving. It's not anything that this was a free flow conversation that we started at the beginning of lockdown to bring passionate people wanting to make a positive difference in society. And part of that out of that has emerged this, and it's part of the wisdom's principle as well, is that stories are essential to understanding who we are as people and realizing that in life experience, when people share that, we learn new things about ourselves, about other people. It triggers thoughts and ideas for ourselves. And makes and sort of grounds us, not just in a theoretical information, but actually in ourselves. And so different people over various times over the last 5 weeks have shared their stories. So we picked on Grant yesterday, and so Grant, you were volunteered, and thanks for accepting that and taking over the mic. So over to you to share a little bit about who you are and how you want to tell your story.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Can you guys see my shared screen? You can see it? Cool. All right. So I'm going to talk very fast because that's what I do. So try and keep up with me. If you fall asleep, that's fine. Just switch your video off. And I'll put some pictures in to keep you guys awake. So my name is Grant Evans. I'm still learning about me. I think that's a lifelong journey for me. I was born on 3rd of December 1967. That's not me being born. That was somebody who stole my limelight. That is happened on the same day. That is Chris Barnard doing his first heart transplant about 1.5 kilometers from where I was born. My family, I'll go from left to right. That's my brother Wayne and my best friend. Then myself there with the knobby knees. They used to be very worried that I was too thin, but people aren't worried about that anymore, that's for sure. Then I got my father and my mother. My father was a fitter and turner, my brother Robbie, and my sister Mary Ann. My dad died when I was in 78 from testicular cancer, which was quite a dark times for me, something I only worked through about 10 years ago. I didn't realize I was carrying that baggage with me for most of my life. Sclerosis, and by the time I got to matric, she was wheelchair bound, which I thought was kind of normal. I didn't see it as a majorly different type of family upbringing, but apparently it was. There was no money for going to varsity, so I didn't. I only got 5 subjects for matric. I failed my accountancy. I now teach, as I said before, finance at master's level. There's a picture of me being ultra cool in the 80s. My first job, I worked for a printing works. And looking back now, it's probably quite a feat, but at the age of probably about 20, within 1 year, I went from apprentice to a typesetter because the lady left, to the production manager because the guy left. And I was running the whole production side of a printing works until a friend of mine, Anton, came to see me. Anton is the guy that introduced me to, where is he going? To Jasper's brother, just by the way, Wouter is Jasper's brother, for those that don't know. He's hiding out there somewhere. So Anton came to me and said, listen, we're going to open up a store. We're going to sell musical equipment. Would you like to come work for us? I said, well, that sounds way cooler than what I'm doing at the moment. So there I went and did that for a while. And I learned to play a whole lot of instruments. I got into the professional circuit for about 3 years playing bass. Learned a lot about myself there. I was able to sing. Oddly, I was not able to speak between songs. I would just swallow me up. I couldn't talk, but I could sing. I could never do a talk like this. And then, so there's a picture of me playing music, not in those days, but in these days, still playing music. That's the musical industry, or selling instruments, is not an easy business. So that took a bit of a knock. I went to the Spur. I became a manager at the Spur. Well, I think it's good. Spur's good training ground, or at least the restaurant management, I think, is very good training ground. And then Anton came back to me and said, "Listen, we're going to go fish farming." Fish farming. That was a cool idea. I had no idea what he's talking about, but we had access, sole access to what they call gonadotropin hormone, which we were going to inject into fish that had never been spawned in captivity before. The one on the bottom right there is a Synodontus angelicus for fish tanks, for aquariums. They come from Tanganyika in the Congo Basin. And we tried to breed that for the first time in captivity. By the time we closed the business, because the overheads were killing us and there was no income, we still had not yet bred that. We only got it right about 3 months after we closed the business. But it was a good time, because I had to go to Rhodes University for an aquaculture course in Grahamstown, and on the way up there I went through PE and stayed over at a friend of mine's, and he took me to a party and he organized me a blind date, because that's what friends are for. And got there, it's a bit awkward really, but anyway. And I met my wife there, Chantel. Well, I didn't actually meet her. She walked into the party. I was too scared to speak to her, so I hid away. And then she left. And I did the bravest thing ever from my week at Rhodes University. I picked up the phone and actually asked her out on a date. And she actually remembered who I was. I couldn't believe that. And she actually said yes. And I was like, wow, how about that? And we fell in love. We did a long distance relationship for about 6 months. She was in PE, I was in Cape Town. We drove up and down by bus. And eventually she came down and we got married in 2000. Her son, Nicholas, or our son, Nicholas, he was 4 at the time. He came with, and yeah, so we started a life down here in Cape Town. From there, the fish farm, as I said, didn't work. So I moved back into the restaurant industry, to Cattle Baron. And the Cattle Baron, when I was in the Cattle Baron, I did my MCSE. It was I was again met up with Anton. He was studying his MCSE. It's a Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer. And I picked up a book, I read it, and I went and wrote the exam, and I passed. And I finished my MCSE in 1 month, when it was a 6-month course for him. And I realized for the first time that I could actually study if I was interested. And that was quite an eye-opener for me. That allowed me to get in the year 2000. It allowed me to get into the Y2K game. And after the Y2K, we opened a business, SR Futures, their club. And we sold international connectivity to Old Mutual, Nedbank, lines across overseas. During that time, a couple of other things. I went onto the Mensa website and I wrote the little exam, and they said, hey, you seem to know what you're doing, go write the real exam. So I wrote the real exam and I passed. It's one of those exams with those little blockies, and you must try and work out what the next block is in the thing, which is awesome. So apparently I'm intelligent. If you ever get stuck on a polygon island with polygon trees, I can tell you what the next polygon tree will be. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure what to do with that. University of Stellenbosch, I went and wrote my MBA. Somebody said I couldn't because I didn't have a bachelor's degree. So I said, oh, challenge accepted. 2 years later, I had my MBA. At the same time, my son was born while I was at SI Futures. He's 16 years old now. He dresses up for fun, not because he's going somewhere. He just likes to dress like that. Last couple of things. SI Futures, we had a fallout, myself and my partner. He wanted to do some interesting things with the tax man. I wasn't interested, so I pulled out. But it nearly floored me completely, because I built my entire future in my head about working for SI Futures for the rest of my life. And the next thing it wasn't there anymore. I didn't know who I was. Yeah, I had to go and rethink about where I was going. I opened a company called Cure Project, which I'm still running now, which does business consultancy. And my wife's got a Cure back office services. She's a bookkeeper. I opened a company called Cash Concepts with my brother-in-law, which was like a cash crusaders. I put my money in for my house, and now I'm paying off my house for a second time, which is awesome, because it wasn't fun the first time. So that resulted in me ending up in hospital with a mental breakdown, being pumped full of drugs, and being given a psychologist who I still see today, not because I'm weird, maybe I am, but because enjoy chatting to him. It's a nice, easy and comfortable, or what's called a safe space. Similar to what speaking to you guys is, by the way, it's a safe space. So learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about how this thing works and why it does some weird things that you don't understand, and how to work with it. Been off my meds for, I don't know, 8-9 years now. I don't like to be on meds if I possibly can help it. So really, I spend a lot of time with a psychologist working at how I think and how to recognize when I'm getting depressed or anxious and that sort of thing. Varsity phoned me, said, can you tutor? People need some help. I said, I don't know, I'll give it a try. I gave it a try. Apparently I could. Then they said, can you lecture? I said, I don't know. Standing up in front of a group of people, maybe not my thing. What happened then was that I went to the psychologist and I said, this public speaking thing just is weird. Why can't I do it? He said, it's perfectly natural. Most people have the problem. And he gave me a couple of tools to get around it. And I can now do master of ceremonies and keynote speeches and things like that. Not because I'm not scared. I'm still petrified. This is not easy to talk to all you people, just by the way, but because I've learned a sort of a way around the fear. So I lecture finance, statistics, well, pretty much I'm the kind of guy with Grant, somebody, and this really happened last year, somebody died, Grant, can you take over? Okay, next week I'm there. And my passion, which I'm enjoying at the moment, I've written a robot or an algorithm which trades the Forex market. So I met Jasper, we are running a fund. It's one of those things, it's so lovely to, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and start coding because I think of something. I can't help myself. Doesn't feel like a job, but it's my baby. I created it myself. I'm in complete control of the thing, and it's working, which is almost more of a surprise than expectation. But it's working. I'm running a fund with Jasper. I'm running a fund for myself down in Cape Town, and I launched a fund in Chicago last week, and it's going well. So that's my story. What I've learned is when I thought I was doff, I didn't do a whole lot of things because I assumed I was doff, and I am now trying to play catch up. When I thought I couldn't stand up in front of people and talk, there's a whole lot of opportunities I walked away from. And now I'm almost the guy that puts his hand up and says, let me in, let me try this. It scares the hell out of me. I'm going to do it. And it's been a very uplifting experience. And that's my story, guys. I hope you didn't fall asleep. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Grant. Certainly we're on the freeway there. We were motoring along, but really appreciate the story and some fantastic insights. I think, and I'm sure lots of elements that people resonated with. So yeah, let's whip around the group and see what they've heard. So there were a couple of people that didn't get a chance yesterday because we ran a little bit long. So I'd like to start with them. So Karina, perhaps we can start with you this morning.
Good morning. Grant, firstly, thanks for having the courage to speak. As you say, it's not easy for you. And just what struck me is the seasons you had to go through to get where you are today. And again, that all of us look so, or try to look so being together. That's what the world sees. But we all have been through our storms and somehow grown through that. So yeah, kudos to you this morning.
Right, thanks, Karina. Pierre, morning to you. And what are your thoughts?
Morning, everyone. Yeah, well, Grant, just thank you for being so transparent and just and that is why it's so important for us, to build relationship and see one another for who they really are, going through their journey where they are. And the journey hasn't ended yet. It's not, it's not there yet. But the accomplishments through that journey, the ups and downs, it just inspires everyone else that you say, okay, you're going also through your journey, and it's just you're not alone. It just gives you that, it just inspires you. So thank you for that, Grant. Your transparency, it's just encouraging.
Great, thanks, Pierre. Let's pop across to Stella now.
Morning, everybody. Grant, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think it's very brave. There's two things that stuck out for me. And the first thing is your honesty and integrity, to be able to say, listen, my business partner, it goes against my integrity and I'm parting from that. That's a very brave thing, and that says a lot of your character. So I commend you on that. And then also the second thing is, I think there's very few of us that hasn't been to therapy. And I think it's easier for women to acknowledge that and to talk about it, but not all men will actually put it out there. So that's very brave, and it also just confirms again the character that you've got. So well done, and I wish you all the best for the future with your new ventures, and I'm sure we're going to still have some great other stories in your journey. So good luck, and thank you for sharing with us.
Great, thanks, Stella. Let's pop across to Steve.
Thanks, Ivan. Grant, I'm not sure if you saw my comment. I'm afraid I was in and out just because of kids in the background not working along. So I caught only parts of that, but the parts that I caught, I really enjoyed. Thank you very much for sharing your specifically the portion that I caught about how can I your academics. I think when you were talking about whether you could achieve at those sorts of levels and people had told you not, I had a similar experience. And for most of my young adult life, or childhood, young adult life, similar kind of experience. I just believed that I wasn't able to. It was only in my last 5 to 7 years that I discovered that I could. And it was a wonderful discovery that really resonated with me. So thanks for sharing that, man. Appreciate it.
Great, thanks, Steve. Herman, let's go across to you.
Thanks, Grant. I really enjoyed the way you presented yourself and your story. And what immediately jumped out for me was when you stated, I could study if it interested me, which for me, again, reinforces my belief in that passion allows us to overcome a lot of obstacles. And what I also enjoyed was how you gradually discovered the real entrepreneur within you. Thanks for sharing that.
Great, thanks, Herman. Leighton, morning.
Hey, morning, Ivan. Short and sweet. Sweetly shared, Grant. Beaucoup prospect, lovely journey. Well done.
Great, thanks, Leighton. Ian Sherry.
Grant, thank you very much indeed. That was, really inspiring. I really enjoyed the way your hairstyles changed during during the course of it. I just kept wanting to ask you questions because I sort of found that, of course, because time is short, you were skating over some really important bits, but really shaped you. I couldn't help thinking how wonderful it was when you discovered that you actually were intelligent, and but it obviously wasn't the panacea. It didn't fix things because you went into some kind of hell after that. Again, I'd love to sort of learn more about that. And then somehow you've managed to emerge into this lovely sort of green light space where you are confident of yourself. You understand but you sort of very self-aware, I think. And you're sort of able to see yourself in really the true light of who you are and build on your good bits. And sort of I felt that you're really building on your good bits, and you sort of accept the other bits, and you sort of leaving them there and saying, I'm getting on with the good bits. So I really liked it. Thanks, Grant, very much.
Right, thanks, Ian. Cecile, let's come across to you.
Okay. I listened to the beginning, and then the flippin' phone rang, and the buyer from AfriSam phoned on WhatsApp, so then I lose the call. So then I got back into the Zoom when Grant was telling about his wife when he married her and that part, and then the Mensa. Now, I want to tell you a funny story about that. I'm also a member of Mensa, and that was probably 30 years ago that we joined Mensa, because my first husband was a psychologist, and his dad was into psychology. He was a psychology professor, and so we wrote the Mensa exam, and we used to go to the Mensa meetings every week. And Grant, you will vouch for this. Some of those Mensa people are really strange. So you think you're very normal when you go there, but because they're very strange. So there we go rafting. We go rafting down the Orange. We did lots of expeditions with Mensa, which was fantastic. So we go rafting down the Orange. So I'm paired up with this guy that's kind of a accountant guy, but weird accountant guy. So him and I are in this rubber dock together. And I'm what do you call it? A naturalist, a nudist. So while we're rafting down the Orange, at one stage there's this peaceful piece of water, and everyone is diving off their little rafts and swimming in this piece of water. I decided it's time for me to have my topless tan. So I'm sitting there on the raft, like 2 meters away from this accounting straight-faced guy, rafting topless. He sits there. I've got a photograph that someone else took. He sits there with a straight face. He's like looking around as if it's a board meeting. There's no topless woman sitting in front of me. And I was 30 years old. There's no topless woman sitting in front of him rafting down the Orange. So that was just my X-ray. Funny story about Mensa. And I'm sure this Mensa group from Johannesburg will never forget that rafting trip. That's my little bit. Well done, Grant. I liked your story.
Thanks, Cecile. I think Trevor had more insight than I realized when he said we're going to get X-rated stories from Cecile. So yeah, they keep on coming. So, go for it, Cecile. Tell her your thoughts.
Morning, everybody. No, thank you for sharing, Grant. It's very inspiring. Your reinventing of yourself, I find it very inspiring. You know, to come back and come back and come back again. Always very interesting to listen to someone who has that kind of bravery to keep doing it. And I'm glad that even in your story you tell of how you had to find yourself. You had to find that actually, if I learn, I can, you know, everything is figure outable once I learn. You know. Thank you for sharing, Grant.
Right, thanks. So, Grant, do you wanted to comment there, something? Grant, are you with us? Looks like Grant is frozen in time and space.
No, Grant he's on the speakerphone with me on this side, but the screen just went blank in front of him. So he phoned me, so I put him on WhatsApp call, so he can hear us talking. He just can't respond from his side.
Okay, well, Jasper, seeing you're online, do you want to share your thoughts?
No, I was just thinking of well, a very interesting story. And when I told my story, he gave me a comment with a smiley face that, now I understand more about you. Like, you know, you're a bit eccentric kind of person. And I just sent him the same comment back today. But, you know, it's the reality is we don't know who the other person is. And even just giving the helicopter vision of a person's life gives you maybe a bit of a framework and a context, but it's still not the final person because we're all still on a journey. And I'm just, and Steve made the comment that Grant married up, and I think it's true for all of us, we married up. But I think what's happening now in our lives, specifically in my life, is we're upscaling our friendships and our circle of friends. So people who challenge us and put us in spaces where we realize we haven't realized our potential yet. And we now go that extra mile. And I think all of us are working much harder and exploring more things than we've ever done before, because we're now actually challenged by each other to say, if he can do it, so can I.
Great, thanks, Jasper. Solomon, good morning to you. What are your thoughts?
Grant, thanks a lot for your story. I think I'm learning quite a lot about just how you're going through different kinds of situations. And I appreciate your passion and just your courage to persevere and to not find yourself giving up, wanting to see yourself becoming a better man. Thanks a lot.
Great, thanks, Solomon. Ian Johnson.
Yeah, good morning. You know, I thought I had a bumpy road in my life, but I think Grant went over Mount Everest, and huge kudos to him in terms of his academic and what he's done. I mean, that's just, for me, admirable. I mean, I lost my dad when I was 18, not as quite as young as Grant, so I know kind of where you're coming from. But yeah, absolutely admiration for your ability to achieve what you've done academically. And that's fantastic. It's really quite inspiring. Yeah, it's been a rocky road, but you've come out the other side. So that's fantastic.
Great, thanks, thanks, Ian. I see Grant is now Chantel. So good morning, Chantel. Welcome on board. I was wondering who that was in the corner there. Trevor, across to you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so I've got three things here. I think Chantel looks much better than Grant in this little screen. That's number one. The second thing is, hi, Mensa. Did you get that? And then I posted a little comment right at the beginning. Is life and business as simple as 1, 2, 3? And so the question I'd pose to Grant is, can he distill 1, 2, 3 factors out of that particular story, which encapsulates what he can share with other people in life? I'd be interested to see if we can do that either today or some other day. And then from there is, are we able to distill those factors from the composite of everybody to be able to give a spoonful of whatever that gift is to as many people as we meet through a forum like this?
So you want me to answer that?
No, look, I mean,
Mensa.
you felt that a part of Mensa, you know, you've got the capacity to think on the spot.
Yeah.
So you're going to challenge.
No, but he used big words like marmalade, and I don't understand what he was asking. But I don't know. So 1, 2, 3 in business, is it that easy? I don't think anything's that easy. But when I teach, I just want people to understand that what you believe in. I like that saying. Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. I love that saying. It starts with what you believe about yourself, and that's one. 2 is get off your bum and do something about it. And I don't think there is a 3, because by then you're going. So we don't need the 3. Okay, so I'm not sure if there is a 3.
I think that's good. Great, thanks, Grant. Yeah, I've got perhaps one that might slot into there, but I'm definitely not at the Mensa level. But I'll give it a bash. So the saying that I like is, if you want the things that you look at to change, then you need to change the way you look at things. And I think that sums up pretty much for me where your story resonates with me, Grant, is you started to change the way you look at things, and it's changed your life radically, I think. And yeah, very impressed with that. So let's pop back to Lee for a wrap up, and we might actually hit 8:30 this morning with a bit of luck. So go for it, Lee.
Grant, you missed the most important one. Number 3 is marry a good wife. I mean, that was the most obvious.
Shouldn't that be number 1, Lee? Shouldn't that be number 1?
Exactly. Thank you, Grant. Really, really appreciate the thought, the processing, you know, it's that condensing of a deep and broad life with so many different dynamics in it into this moment, and really appreciate your vulnerability and and the courage that goes into sharing your story. It's not easy, but I'm glad that you're feeling that this is a safe space, that you're able to do that. And I think each of us realizes that a story is something that is very precious, that we hold, you know, lightly and carefully in our hands with great appreciation, and that we all then take away incredible inspiration from it. One of the thoughts that's sort of going around in my mind, thinking about wisdom, is the wisdom of extraordinary, ordinary people. And that's how I see each person here, an extraordinary or incredible wisdom that they've learned in their lives. The theme that seems to be coming through, and Jasper sent me a message yesterday talking about different possible topics, and one of them was beliefs. And I think that is something that really has is a thread, and you picked it up straight away, Grant, when Trevor asked, you know, what would you condense? And it's the belief in yourself, or the beliefs about yourself, that impact what you do and how you do it. And so I think that's the direction I'd like to go in tomorrow, is what are the inherent beliefs that are enabling us to do what we can do and might be limiting us in what is possible. So let's go in that direction tomorrow, if that's okay. So we'll mull over that, and look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow morning. Tomorrow will be our last day of the lockdown series of Wisdom's Chats, and we will then take a break over the weekend, and we'll keeping our weekends free, and going forward will be Monday to Friday. So you can sleep in, or do your exercise, or make breakfast for your wife.
Fantastically, thanks very much for that, and thanks, folks. You know, I'm a little bit worried about the direction this whole thing's taking. You know, they say you should always avoid sex, politics, and religion in discussions if you want. So we've had the sex from Cecile. We're now going to believe some things that could be bordering a little bit. So, you know, we'll just have to stay away from the politics, I think, in the long term. But fantastic day further, folks. Fantastic. Well, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So have a great day, and see you tomorrow. Cheers now.